I'm picking up on the discussion from season 7, episode 10 of Fire Away, where we talked about corporate credit card fraud. And my rant today really is about too many employers just discover misconduct and immediately rush to judgment and to fire the employee, especially when we're talking about things like theft or fraud. And, I think employment lawyers are always saying this: you've got to proceed with caution. The concept of fire first and ask questions later is not a good idea in the context of employment law, and it can lead to significant liability. So I agree, corporate credit card theft or any theft or fraud is serious. I don't want to undermine that, but never rush to judgment. And remember, and I've said this a million times on Fireway, in my book, and countless blogs and everything else, when you're going to fire someone, and when I say fire someone, that means termination for cause, which means they don't get any notice, any termination pay, any severance pay, or anything. When you're going to fire someone, you have to prove two things: one, that there was misconduct, but two, that the relationship has been irreparably harmed. And the key point here is that when a court is looking at that, they're not looking at the misconduct in isolation. They're going to take what's called the contextual approach. They're going to look at things like, how long was the person employed? Do they have a prior history of discipline? What's the nature of their role or the degree of trust required? And we talked about that in season 7, episode 10 of Fire Away, where a general manager was held to a much higher standard than someone in a lower level position would have been. And the other key factor, and what I find is often the determining factor, how the employee responds when they're confronted. If they are dishonest, if they try to cover it up, if they basically give you no reason to think it's not going to happen again, it's far more likely a court's going to say that the relationship has been irreparably harmed. If they are apologetic, if they give you assurances that it's not going to happen again, and especially if they've got a clean record, in many cases, the court will say that they deserve another chance, and some lesser form of discipline will be appropriate. So the investigation is key. You need to investigate, first of all, to confirm your suspicion. Make sure that whatever you think this person did, make sure they actually did it. Because I have seen cases where it seemed to be the case, but upon further investigation, it wasn't. Even if you do confirm that they did it, find out if there are mitigating factors. Is there an addiction issue, a mental health issue? Has there been past condemnation of this type of conduct before? You want to know those before you fire the person, not later, and certainly not when you're going through a litigation on a wrongful dismissal claim. And then how does the employee respond? And I have a lot of clients push back on this and say, I know they're just going to lie. They're going to try to cover it up. And like I always say, and I've said it already today, if they do, they're digging themselves a deeper hole, because now not only are they guilty of misconduct, they're guilty of dishonesty. And that makes your case for saying this relationship has been irreparably harmed even stronger. If you get it wrong, you're going to be on the hook not only for full severance, but also your legal costs, their legal costs, and potentially additional damages if a court thinks that you acted in good faith. So you need to investigate first to avoid all those things. And last point before I wrap this rant up, that doesn't mean do nothing. The most common mistake is I see companies say, well, we're really busy now. We've got a trade show coming up. I'm going to wait till the busy season ends, then we'll deal with it. And you then can let the person continue working with you. Remember that to justify just cause, you have to convince a court that the relationship has been irreparably harmed, that you could not continue to employ them. If you literally continue to employ them, then you're just undermining your argument. So you want to immediately put them on administrative leave, do the investigation, then determine where to go from here. So as I always say, before you take any action, get advice from someone who specializes in employment law. If you think you might need an employment lawyer, you probably do.